The Ted Spearman Justice Center is a combination of a police station and a courthouse. It's kind of unique and very special, and to name this combination Ted Spearman Justice Center is wonderful.
He stood for integrity and equality.
Theodore Spearman, you talk about the real thing, you know. He's the real McCoy.
He had a great dedication to maintaining perspective.
We must never forget that the only real source of power that we as judges can tap is the respect of the people.
He was so proud, coming from Yakima, coming from his folks who he always described as pre-electric, some of the first black homesteaders in Yakima. He was very proud of his mother being a domestic. His father, who was one of the first African Americans to go to the University of Washington. My daddy was Stanford scholarship for shot put.
And then moved to Detroit for a really long time, raised my mom there for a while, as a civil rights lawyer there.
We were both in Detroit right after the riots of Detroit. That was a real crucible of civil rights.
He had some really difficult cases. In Detroit, a young woman who was in foster care because she had been taken from her mother went to Ted to find out why the baby died of starvation.
A 13-year-old boy who was shot in the back because a clerk thought he had stolen a sticker.
I think who he was as really a firebrand in the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s, that was the version of him that made me want to become a lawyer. My grandfather then came to Bainbridge Island, which is idyllic in so many ways and such a beautiful place to settle down for him, but of course has its own challenges for, you know, equal protection of all people.
He was a great advocate for the liveaboard community and for the fishing community.
Bainbridge Island liveaboards, a community of people who live on their boats moored in Eagle Harbor. There have been liveaboards on Bainbridge Island for more than a century, but in the last 10 years or so, there's been an effort to get them to leave. And this fall, it all came to a head when the state told the liveaboards to get out.
Ted became interested in the liveaboard situation because he saw such a broad spectrum of interesting characters from all kinds of backgrounds. At the time, the liveaboard community was under threat of annihilation.
The Sea Islands of Puget Sound have had a rich history of being safe harbor for mariners and their families.
It was a unique situation. What we had there really was a neighborhood of people living in multi-million-dollar houses on the waterfront and people living in funky little boats that didn't run, and also really good sailing vessels that had been all over the world. Ted was a Bainbridge Island practicing attorney during this situation, and when he learned about it, he volunteered a great deal of his time.
A will and a way will be found.
One of the things that I could say about Bainbridge, even though it is a predominant European community, we do have a very diverse population here with our Japanese American community, with our Indo-Pino community, with our Native. We have, the history here is tremendous.
Kitsap County is a diverse place, and it's increasingly diverse. Finally, at last, on our Superior Court bench, we have a vegetarian.
I feel destiny in this room as Theodore Spearman is sworn in as our newest Superior Court judge.
Ed loved his job. Everything about it.
Ted was always very grateful. He was grateful for everything he had.
His parents taught him live a life of service.
His warm smile reflected his warm heart.
He fully understood that the police department plays a major role in the disbursement of justice.
Some people wanted to call it the municipal court or the police station or something like that. Those things strike fear in the hearts of everyday people.
If you're handcuffed and brought into a justice center, you have a totally different mindset of, well, they're going to be fair. I may have done something, but I'm going to be treated fairly.
I really hope that having his name on this center, it will encourage people to consider the hard stuff, which is, you know, the fraught but potentially really productive relationship between law enforcement and justice. He would be very glad that his name will be starting conversations, because the thing my grandfather loved most at the end of the day was starting hard conversations.
This is a great honor, but he would want to make sure that his mother was recognized for raising him, and certainly his wife, who was his partner. And he would say that she is a shero, and that she most definitely helped to make him possible.